back to my channel. So today I am filming a storytime video, and I've been wanting to film this video for a while, but I literally could not control my rage over this. Like, I don't think you understand, okay? Like, the title that I put was not clickbait, okay? There was actually an emergency landing, and I was stuck in an airport overnight. So, okay. So yeah, please subscribe to this video because I'm gonna need something to assuage my rage after I tell this entire story. So let's just start off with a few basic details. So I was scheduled to come to India for a month, okay? And I thought, like, as per usual, as I have been, like, every other time, I come here, like, once every 2 years. So as I usually do that, we either stop over in, like, Germany, or we'll stop over in England, or we'll stop over in, like, Istanbul, or we'll stop over somewhere, and it'll be, like, an 8-hour flight, and then another 8-hour flight. So it definitely sucks, okay? It definitely sucks, but, like, it's manageable. So step one in this series of things that went wrong in this situation, I find out that I have to go through a 15-hour long direct flight, okay? 15 hours on a plane, and then take a 1-hour flight to finally get where I am. So, first of all, direct flights, I do not know. No, I do not like direct flights, okay? Because first of all, airplane bathrooms. Airplane bathrooms are disgusting, okay? They are nasty. I don't like the sound that the flusher makes because it freaks me out. And I was gonna be on a 15-hour flight, so as it is, I knew that I was gonna have to use the airplane bathroom. So I was just like, But at least I was leaving out of Newark Airport, because the only thing that could have made that worse at that point was if I left at JFK. So at least I was leaving from Newark, and I was like, okay, I can deal. So we get to the airport, whatever, check in all of our bags, get on the plane takes off. Okay, so everything's going fine, but then I actually get to my seat, and I find out that, okay, you know how there are, like, the series of, like, 4 bathrooms? Yeah, my seat was in the aisle, right next to all of the bathrooms. So I was just like, because it's a 15-hour long flight, so I'm gonna want to sleep. Literally every time I sleep, I'm like this, I'm like trying to sleep. There's literally a light, like, coming from the bathroom. Like, every 5 seconds, somebody on this plane needed to use the bathroom. I kid you not, like, literally every 2 minutes. And I would make the really annoying sound when it was opening the, like, door thingy, and then the light would just be blaring in my face, and it smelled nasty because it was an airplane bathroom. And a lot of people that go to India on direct flights, and just in general, happen to be older people, just because they're wanting to, like, visit their, like, grandkids or whatever. So there were just a lot of old people that needed to use the bathroom, and the light was constantly in my face. So as it is, I was annoyed, okay? I was really annoyed. So in order to, like, help myself, I like looking at the plane map. Like, when they have those, like, screens that are, like, in front of you and you can, like, watch movies on them, I like to check the plane map every 5 seconds so that I at least know how far I need to go. So, mind you, I had not slept at all on this flight at all, because it was just not happening. So I was just, like, checking the plane map, and then I'm like, okay, this plane map is, like, obviously fucked up. Like, this is not working, because instead of, like, showing it to go to our destination, it was just, like, going somewhere random. Like, it was just, like, not, like, it was going somewhere else. So I was just like, okay, so it's just not working. Like, it's glitching out. It's whatever. And then, like, it's a few more hours into the flight, and we're about, like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 11 hours of the flight. Like, we were, like, a pretty good chunk in, and some of the bathrooms start to not work. Like, 1 or 2 of the bathrooms weren't working, so there was always a huge ass line. And then I was like, okay, whatever. And of course the bathroom that was across from me was still working, you know, still going strong. So there was just, like, this huge line down the aisle, and it was just really, really bad. And then the flight attendants come over, and they start asking all the old people to sit down. And these are, like, old people that were really grumpy, so they were literally arguing with the flight attendants, and they were like, no, like, I need to use the bathroom, like, it's not working. So there's just, like, that whole situation going on. Then, what gets even weirder, the pilot comes on, and he was like, okay, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but we need to land in Istanbul because the bathrooms aren't working. So I was like, okay. And Istanbul was way out of, like, our direct path. So I was, like, really confused because it literally required us to go, like, an hour out of our direct path. And I was like, if you needed to emergency stop, why wouldn't you stop somewhere that was, like, along the way. Like, that didn't even make sense to me at the time. So I was like, why is this happening? So that basically, first of all, that added like an extra 2 hours onto our flight. So we finally landed in Istanbul, and I was just like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, we're just like emergency landing right now because the bathrooms aren't working. And then we sit there, I kid you, we sit there on the tar, like we just sit there in the plane in Istanbul. We just sit there in the plane for a good 3 hours. And for like the first 2 hours, literally nothing was happening. Like, from my perspective, nothing was happening. Like, nobody was coming onto the plane. Like, we were just sitting there for 3 hours, and then finally this like cleanup crew comes onto the plane and they clean up the bathrooms. And that literally took them like a half an hour, and somehow they just magically fixed the bathroom. So I was like, okay, whatever. We just basically wasted 4 hours doing this. And then we finally take off again, and then finally make it to Delhi, where I was supposed to land. So I was like, okay, literally my 15-hour flight just somehow turned into like a 21-hour flight. Like, what is happening? And we got there in the middle of the night, and we missed our connecting flight too. So I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I wasn't stressing that much. I was like, okay, you know what? We can just take like the next flight out. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, yes, we wasted 4 more hours, but like, I can deal. It's whatever. It's fine. I can deal with this. And then we go up to the counter. I'm not going to tell you what airline this is because I don't want to sound like I'm dragging a certain airline, but I go up to the counter and I was like, okay, like, we need to get on the next flight. Like, when's the next flight out? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, because it's a domestic flight, they only fly in like the morning to like the afternoon. I was like, what? Okay, let me recap that. So I'm there in like the middle of the night, like, it was like 10 p.m. or 11 or something like that. I don't know. It was like kind of late, like late in the night. And then they were like, I'm sorry, our earliest flight out is at 6 a.m. So I was like, what? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? So then I was like expecting them to give me like a hotel or like something like that. So then like we asked, and then they were like, oh, we could give you a hotel. Like, they were willing to give it to us, but they're like, it'll take you an hour to get there. And then you have to be back at the airport 2 hours before your flight, and it will take an hour to get from the hotel to the airport. So essentially, they were saying that it isn't worth it to go to the hotel. So I was like, So we were gonna have to spend the night in the airport. But I was like, but they were like, oh, we'll give you free lounge vouchers, like whatever, like it'll be fine. So they were gonna give us lounge vouchers. So like, at least if we had to stay in the airport overnight, I could like stay in the lounge. So we get the lounge vouchers. We finally go to the actual lounge place. No, we didn't get the, wait. Okay, so they tell us to go to this other counter to get the lounge vouchers, and they would not give it to us. And they were like, oh, like, we don't deal with this. Like, you need to go to the lounge. Like, they'll let you in, but like, we don't deal with it at this counter. So then we finally get to the lounge, and we're like, okay, like, it's time for us to like get in. Like, it's the middle of the night. Like, I'm tired as fuck. Like, I need to sleep. And then they were like, oh, I'm sorry, like, we can only let one of you in. And I was like, what? Like, it was me, my mom, and my brother, and they were like, oh, I'm sorry, like, we can only let one of you in. And at this point, I literally had not slept for like an entire day, maybe more. Like, it had been like over 24 hours since I had gotten sleep. So I was like, what? Like, what are you telling me? And I was trying to control my rage, so I literally just walked out. Like, my mom was like talking to them at the counter, and I was like, no. So I walked out, and I just walked to the food court, and then they still wouldn't let us in. So my mom and my brother just like came with me to the food court, and then I kid you not, I slept on a bench. Like, just let that sink in. Like, I spent my night literally sleeping on a bench at a food court, like in one of those booths, okay? And it was so cold. Like, I don't know why. Like, it's supposed to be hot, okay? This is India. It's supposed to be hot. Literally, it was colder than New Jersey inside the airport. Like, I was dying. And I was, like, dressed for summer. So I was literally shriveled up on this, like, tiny little bench thing in the middle of a dead empty food court at, like, 2 in the morning at that point. And I was just, like, I was literally, like, shivering on there. And I'm going to insert a picture here because luckily, I guess my brother took a picture of me, and I didn't know he took a picture of me, but he took a picture of me, and you can literally see, I'm so desperate for warmth that I literally took our bags, like I took our carry-on bags that we had with us, literally put them on top of myself as a blanket so that I could like somehow like be warm. And then whatever, okay, I literally slept on a bench, shriveling, literally dead. Wake up the next morning in time for our flight, and then we finally get on the plane, and my mom was like making conversation with this other person who she saw on the flight that we were also on that had the emergency landing. And then they were making conversation, and then she was like, oh, like you guys didn't go to the lounge? Like, oh, we went to the lounge. And then I was like, what? She was like, yeah, like me, it was like her, and she was traveling with 2 other people, and they all went into the lounge, no problem. They were like, oh yeah, we spent the night there. They like had like a nice place to like sleep and rest. And I was like, what? Like, I literally slept on a bench, and this lady is telling me that like she got to sleep on like this nice bed. And I was like, literally, I was already done at that point. And then another guy joins into the conversation, and he was like, wait, like, I don't think it was actually because the bathrooms were. And I was like, what? But I was actually like, I kind of believe, like, that made sense though, because why would we have been sitting in Istanbul that was completely out of our way, and then sit there for 2.5 hours for them to like fix our bathrooms that only took like a half an hour for them to fix? So I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, apparently people were like looking out the window, and they like saw stuff leaking out of the plane. So like people were seeing stuff literally coming out of the plane, like a fluid coming out of the plane. So it's like the plane was literally breaking down. Like what is happening? So apparently there was like fuel leaking from the plane. I don't even know. Something like that happened. And then they told us that we had to land because the bathrooms, because they didn't want to incite panic. So basically, I could have died, but I didn't. But like the plane was leaking out some sort of fluid, and they didn't want to tell us about that. So they just used the bathrooms as an excuse to stop. And like I remember like when he made the announcement, he was like, the pilot made the announcement, he was like, I'm sorry, like with all these like elderly people and like these like young grandchildren, like we can't go on without like the bathrooms being working and whatever. So I was just like what? Like at that point I was literally so tired. It was 6 a.m. like the next day I was on a plane, and then I found out that we literally almost died. I didn't get to go sleep in the lounge when I should have. Our plane literally took like a 4.5-hour diversion because something was wrong with the actual plane. And I was just like what? Like why? Like what? Like I've had bad experiences on planes, okay? I've had my bags literally get lost in Africa for 2 weeks and then sent to India. So trust me, I've had bad experiences with planes, but this literally tops them. Like, emergency landing, 5-hour diversion, slept on a bench like a homeless person, and like trapped overnight in an airport. So, good. So yeah, that was basically my story of how I was trapped overnight at an emergency landing. So if you guys like this video or like my channel, please subscribe. And if you guys want to hear more Storytime videos or anything like that, please leave a comment down below. Thanks. Bye.
One night in October.